for this episode of Mr. Nailsin's Wednesday Comics, I'm going to look at two independent comics that I backed on Indiegogo campaigns. And the first is actually the second of the Cyberfrog comics that Ethan Van Sciver does. And I chose the Jay Lee cover. Yeah, very nice. And as with all things, unfortunately, with the Comicsgate story and so on and so forth, of course, what happened here when Jay Lee dared to do a cover for a colleague, an attempt to cancel him happened primarily through the auspices of Tom King. It was a nasty episode involving that apparently Jay Lee was, at the time this unfolded, was saying goodbye to his dog with him and his girlfriend or wife, I can't recall. And so just compounding the idiocy of this act of you dared draw a picture for Ethan Van Sciver, and this is some heinous crime or something like that. Fortunately, it backfired and blew up in Tom King's face. Not nhưng because people still think he's a great writer. But anyway, but that's the kind of nastiness that's erupted out of all of this. And Ethan Van Sciver himself, of course, takes an awesome amount of this type of abuse. And it drove him to go his own way. And Cyberfrog was a character he came up with in the 90s. He was breaking in to the industry. And so he returned to it and started off with this plot, which is kind of like a post-apocalyptic story, but it's not zombies. No, it's hornets. So that's the narrative of it. And it's kind of an interesting take because after following Walking Dead until it was unwatchable and the comic book became unreadable because it was just rinse, lather, repeat at a certain point, the repetitive nature of it. So burnt out on post-apocalyptic stuff, which the primary push of that genre, if you will, has been zombies. The alien invasion, not so much. I would have thought some people would have picked it. There was a show, but it didn't look that great. I didn't keep up with it. But it's an idea to approach, and I'm sure there's plenty of others. But in the case of Cyberfrog, it's this interesting thing where, he's sort of a superhero character, except it's this frog who's been given this cybernetic body parts and abilities and all that. And yet, a horrible thing happened, and the Earth was invaded by these insects. And so that's the nature of where they are and how it unfolds. And so it's an interesting take on it. This is some of the art that I pulled from some of the posts that Ethan was posting on his campaign page to give you a look at what was to come. So that's what I put in here, rather than spoil anything or show off anything that does spoil it. But there he is, and he develops sort of this, I don't know if absolute father figure for the little girl, but certainly a mentor of sorts and babysitter. But nefarious things are afoot. This is just my crappy drawing of Cyberfrog. But anyway, terrible things happen with the Hornets, but also within the camp of humans. People vie for power and whatnot, and it's always a problem. And some sinister forces at work, as one would expect in these sort of stories. This is some of the stuff that came with it. There was also a Cyberfrog figure that I forgot to figure into this picture. An action figure. Ethan's gone all out. He's got a whole line of toys on this and everything. Very, very serious. And is like, yeah, it's the independent comics is where you got to go for American comics anyway. Manga, of course, dominates because they left a void and it filled it. So as far as American efforts go, this is it. this is where you got to go. And so that's what he's doing. Haven't read the extras just yet, this one or the Salamandroid. And I got to admit, Salamandroid, I kind of wish he'd devote more time to that character, do a whole thing on that. Taking quite a liking to it. But anyway, some stickers and stuff and cards came with it. And so it's a cool package all around. If you did not back it, he does have an eBay store. And perhaps there's copies there. I haven't checked it out because I'm always backing the project, so I got mine. Tee-hee. But you could check it out there. Of course, it's the excellence of Ethan's art, you see in there. And, of course, top-notch all around. And the story is intriguing and how it's unfolding. I wasn't all that wowed by the first one. But it's getting a little better and there's more depth. And that's the other weaknesses of the Indiegogo campaigns. And it's the circumstances that one finds themselves in. If you had a regular publisher and could have the series continue consecutively rather rapidly, that would be much better for how these stories unfold. It's very much in the style of a comic book series. But then it ends on cliffhangers, or it ends, it's like, hey, it didn't really finish. Well, yeah, but it'll be in the next one, which would be fine for next issue for the Avengers or whatever have you, because it'll be a month later or what, and that sort of thing. Under the circumstances here, you can't really do it. But that's just the way it is. I don't know if you'd want to wait till a whole story arc is collected in one volume and put it out like that, which you'll probably do at some point. But just initially to do it like that, where there's still more stories to tell and that sort of thing. It's a series type character, and that and you could follow through on that. But sometimes I think that would be a potential weakness, and it is what it is. And perhaps once things start to roll even more, he's very successful. I don't know what all the time constraints are on him and what he has to deal with that puts it this way. But probably doesn't matter. He's doing very well anyway. So it doesn't matter to do it. Probably not. But it's something to consider for someone who's not quite in the position that Ethan Van Sciver is in. And also, a lot of it is just it benefits from the anger that people feel at the previous industry, which has, for whatever reason, and I think we know a lot of it, the reasons, has just done itself in and refuses to turn around. And at this point, any bright signs or turnarounds is probably too late. So that's too bad. But anyway, it's one to check out. And you can, because he does provide his eBay store. So it's fun. It's intriguing. And a lot darker in some elements than I expected. But, that's part of the surprise for Cyberfrog. Okay, enough about frogs. How about the sexy girl? So the next one, Indiegogo campaign comic book series is Lady Alchemy. Now, likewise, sympathetic to Ethan Van Sciver's positions and whatnot, and that whole ordeal and Comicsgate and everything. The same is true in a lot of different ways here for Martina Markota, who is Lady Alchemy in real life. She was a performance artist. She would do all these acts and whatnot, and her persona was this Lady Alchemy character that she did. But she did a terrible thing. She said, you know what? I think Trump makes a lot of sense. And boy, that was it. Oh boy, I've been sent into exile. It's a terrible, terrible story, because these people that she cared about, thought were her friends, and all this turned on her, and that whole horrible story. Then it gets bad as she decides, I'll get in on this comic book thing and make a story about my Lady Alchemy character. And then there was troubles there. and so on and so forth. It's a strange thing, but I got to talk to her. She came on my podcast and talked about a lot of the problems she had. Just, all the turmoil. And it continues to this day. I don't get why a lot of people have a problem with this woman. She's a very nice lady. But I don't know. Just, there's just too much crazy out there. And that sort of thing. But anyway, she was doing this story and I backed it, but it took a long time because, again, there's always a stumbling block. And it's unfortunate, none of which was her fault. But she got it done. She got a better artist to take this on. And it came out and I got my copy and, and read the book. So, she's very serious about alchemy and art, and she would do these shows which say, hey, that's just a burlesque dance. Well, there's a lot to it, but that in and of itself is an art. And it was a performance, and she's, speaking to alchemy and those elements through her performances. And it comes close to these ideas of you could make a comic book character out of this. So you can think immediately, certainly in the superhero stuff of, Zatanna and characters like that, Magic, who would easily fall into this. Certainly Alan Moore's Promethea characters, very similar to a lot of things that do take place in this story. And so it's more kind of a surreal tour of her thoughts on alchemy and that sort of thing, rather than a full-on story. There's elements in it where you're introduced to a character that's important to her character and leading it through, but then it's kind of very quick. But the overall atmosphere of it takes center stage for the narrative of this story. So basically, she's this performance artist, and then these very weird demonic characters show up to steal her blood. And this is an interpretation of her performance that catches the eyes of nefarious folks. And, it's off to the little journey and adventure, as it were, as she discovers a very important secret about herself. And it's all revealed. And has elements in mythology and even biblical elements. Some of it took a turn that I did not quite expect. But it's okay, because they were the bad guys. But again, in the old days of comics, in the old days of Vertigo, Lady Alchemy would have fit right at home in that. So that's some of the stuff you would have gotten. And by that, I mean the original Vertigo, not the crap that it became and it got itself canceled and shut down. But obviously, then Vertigo was born out of horror comics, out of Swamp Thing. And then, of course, Sandman took center stage and pretty much built Vertigo. And so you got a lot of those weird comics that were for mature audiences only and that sort of thing. And certainly, the strange and surreal and horror elements that are rife through Lady Alchemy here would yes, feel right at home there. So there's this is sort of like, hey, what was it like backstage for Lady Alchemy? Well, take a good long look. There it was. Before all the performances, and so. This is one of my drawings of Lady Alchemy. It will not appear in the comic book. And then finally you get this, which might be giving away too much, I don't know, but certainly a lot of the elements you would see in Promethea, and so a lot of similar aspects to it, but off on a different tangent for it. So as for Lady Alchemy, it is a rather contained story. It's a bit of an origin story, if you will, for this character, but there's the potential for follow-ups and other stories for her to delve into. But even if this is the only one you get, it's fine, because it's not similar to like with Cyberfrog, where it's like, well, to be continued when the next one comes, that kind of thing. And it's not quite as regular because of the circumstances. But as for this one, well, if she does another one and it is more contained, that probably will work better for Lady Alchemy. So anyway, if you didn't back it, well, I don't know what to tell you, unless someone's bought several copies and would put them on eBay. That might be a possibility. Or if Martina wants to do another one, then she could probably offer a bundle of the 2 volumes, and it'd be a shot at picking up Lady Alchemy there. But the art is really good, and there's an interesting sort of interlude there of alchemy art and what have you. So and of course she does these long-winded live streams going through art history and stuff like that, so you'll see a lot of the influences when she talks about that as well. So there we go, Cyberfrog and Lady Alchemy. I did not expect to do reviews on them together, but the one came after the other in the mail. So all right, that's the subject matter for this episode. So thanks for watching and listening, and we'll do another next week, next Wednesday, for what else? Mr. Nailsin's Wednesday Comics.